How to make a sloppy Joe. Now, the sloppy Joe, most Brits would agree with this. Like, we've heard it referenced in so many shows. The Simpsons, Matilda, Family Guy. Like, it seems like every popular American TV show or movie has like involved somebody eating a sloppy Joe. It's like an iconic American food, at least in my mind. And I've always wondered, what exactly is a sloppy Joe? Like, it looks kind of like a burger, but it's not really. And I want to try one at some point, but I don't even know where I'd need to go to get a sloppy Joe. I'd probably have to make one myself.
Today, I'm going to show you how to make a more delicious, more in balance, and slightly fancier version of a sloppy Joe. Think of it as a sloppy Joe with its shirt tucked in, or a sloppy
So it is kind of like a burger, but with like mince instead of a burger.
Joseph. Let's call it that. To get started, I need to experience the standard issue cafeteria sloppy Joe to see if it's as bad as I remember. For that, I've got a good old-fashioned can of Manwich here. By the way, Manwich is a sick name for a product, but looking at this ingredient label, I'm not super excited to try it. 2 out of the first 4 ingredients are high fructose corn syrup and plain corn syrup. Straight out of the can though, it actually doesn't taste that bad. It's kind of like if you added ketchup to Taco Bell mild sauce. Now to make it sloppy, I'll follow the 4-step instructions on the can. Step 1 is cook beef thoroughly. For that, I'll just brown off a pound of ground beef in a nonstick pan. Then step 2, add Manwich sauce. Now the can
So this is kind of like a bolognese. It's kind of like if you were making spaghetti bolognese.
doesn't say to do this, but I cooked this sauce down a little bit so that it wasn't so soupy. And then step 3 is to ask to be called chef by everyone who addresses you. That's awesome. I assume it's because your sloppy Joes are
Okay, so he's thickened the sauce a lot. Like he's removed a lot of the water.
just going to be so freaking sick that they have no choice.
And
And
he
then
just
step
puts it
4
in the
is
bun.
to serve,
Okay.
dig in, and leave hunger behind. Ooh, I got it. This tastes like an overly ketchuped hamburger from McDonald's. Just kind of bland ground beef with tons of corn syrup and tomato product. Yum. Honestly, it's a pretty low bar, so of course we can do better. To get started, I'll need 1 pound of ground beef. I prefer to use 80-20 here because leaner meat would not be unctuous enough.
For sure, I agree. 80-20 is the best ratio for mincemeat, as we would call it here. You guys call it ground beef in North America. Because if there's not enough fat in there, it's just chewy, the flavor's not quite right. You need a little bit of fat. That's why you like, I think that's why Wagyu is so popular, because of the fat content.
Next, I'll drop my meat into a bowl and then add 1 gram or 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. This soda is going to help inhibit the beef proteins from bonding together while they cook, making the beef nice and tender. One of my main gripes with sloppy Joes is that the meat tends to be tough and gristly and it gets stuck in your teeth. Also, if you're wondering if more soda here would make the beef more tender, I tried that and made this recipe with 4 grams instead of 1. And not only was this version borderline mushy, the extra soda raised the pH in the sauce so much that it caramelized a lot more than it should have, and it had a really weird, unwelcome, dark flavor to it. Moral of the story is some soda good, a lot of soda bad. And very weird. Now, I'm gonna let this beef sit for a second while I bust out some quick knife work. For that, I've got 1 onion and 1 poblano pepper. For the onion, I'm gonna go with a small-ish dice here. Too big and the onions won't melt into the sauce, and they'll stand out texturally in a way that I don't like. In total, I'll need 150 grams of onion. For the
Like, Americans watching this, how often do you eat a sloppy Joe? Is it something that you would still eat on not a day-to-day, but maybe once a week? Or is it literally something that you would get at school, in the cafeteria, maybe at college, a quick meal? Like, where does it sort of rank in terms of regularity of, like, consumption?
The poblano, I'll also go with a pretty small dice here, and I'm using it over a more traditional green bell pepper because it brings some mellow heat and has a lot more green chili flavor. I'll need 100 grams of poblano. Once I've got my veggies diced, I'll grab a large nonstick pan and drop it on the stove over medium-high heat. And once that's hot, I'll add in a good long squeezer of olive oil, and then in goes my onions, my poblanos, and then a strong pinch of salt. From there, I'll jump in and fry these two together to soften them up a little bit and to get some color going around the edges. That'll take about 3 to 4 minutes with pretty frequent stirring. And once the aromatics are softened up and starting to take on some color, I'll add in my sodaed beef. From there, I'll jump back in with my ground meat musher to spread it out and break it down.
So aside from the peppers and the onions, it's kinda like a spaghetti bolognese sauce. Kinda.
By the way, this musher is one of only
So
two
far.
or three single-purpose tools that I keep in my tool drawer. In my opinion, it does a much better job at crumbling meat down than a spatula or a potato masher, and it's very worth the $5 it costs. Now, I'll continue to smush this meat for 2 to 3 minutes, or however long it takes to break it down into very small particles. Smaller ground beef particles not only have more surface area to catch that flavorful sloppy Joe sauce, but they're also better to eat. And after about 4 minutes, this meat is starting to take on some nice browning. It's cooked through, and most importantly, we've got it crumbled down into an edible size. So next comes some seasoning. In goes 5 grams of salt, 5 grams of onion powder, 5 grams of garlic powder, 2 grams of black pepper, 5 grams of paprika, and then a strong pinch of chili flake.
Nice. He seasons well. So many people, it feels like they're just either allergic to seasoning or they are just so resistant to seasoning. Seasoning, it gives the food the flavor. Like, it just tastes so much better. And I know some people say, oh, you know, if the ingredients are high quality, you don't need to season. But come on, I think seasoning makes like 99% of food better. Would you agree?
Next, I'll give that a toss to combine and then fry the spices with the meat and veggies to open up their flavor.
Nice color.
That'll take about 30 seconds or so, and once I'm there, I'll add in 10 grams of all-purpose flour and then stir that in. This flour is going to help thicken the sauce a little bit and also help emulsify the beef fat later on so our Josephs won't be overly greasy. And once the flour is stirred in enough to hydrate it and the raw flavor has been cooked off, I'll add in my wet ingredients. That's going to be 50 grams of tomato paste, 50 grams of ketchup, 15 grams of yellow mustard, 15 grams of brown sugar, 50 grams of Worch, or as I like to call it,
Worcestershire. Worcestershire.
A lot of Americans, a lot of you guys struggle to read that word. We just say Worcester sauce. Like, we cut out a lot of this. I know we spell it like that, but we pretty much spell it WR and then STER. Worcester. We don't even pronounce the shirt. I don't anyway. We just say Worcester sauce. But I guess the proper way would be Worcestershire sauce. But yeah, I'll just say Worcester sauce.
Sure. Worcestershire.
Call it whatever you want, but in my opinion, sloppy Josephs are just as much about Worch as they are about...
Did he just drink it straight? Oh my God.
the ketchup, so I use a lot. Next, I'll add in 20 grams of red wine vinegar, and then this won't be surprising, I'm going to add in a little bit of Better Than Bouillon beef paste, about 10 grams. Lastly, I'll add in 350 grams of any kind of store-bought stock, and then I'll jump in and stir to get everything combined.
Nice. I like this guy. A lot of flavor going into that pan. A lot.
And once we're looking saucy, I'll bring this sauce up to a simmer, reduce the heat to medium-low, and then thank Made In, the sponsor of this video, for making such a dope non-stick pan. If you haven't heard of Made In, they're a cookware, 15% off their first order with my link. Now, for about 10 minutes, I'm going to reduce the cooking liquid while also coming back intermittently with my meat musher to break the beef down even further. Cooking the meat with wet heat kind of braises it and allows the fat inside to render more fully, making it more tender. Combine that with the soda and we're going to have very luscious, very tender beef. And after about 10 to 12 minutes of reduction, when I come back and push my spatula through the sauce,
God, this sauce looks so good. And seeing all of the flavors, all of the seasonings, the sauces he put in there, I just want to get a big, like, just put it on toast. This on toast, which is essentially, I guess, a sloppy Joe, would taste banging.
You can see it leaves a pretty wide gap. There's also going to be a bunch of beef fat sitting on top, and that's totally okay. Just give this a vigorous stir, and the AP flour that we used earlier will emulsify that fat into the sauce. And you guys, don't under-reduce this sauce either. If it's too loose, the meat mixture won't hold itself together, and it will literally just crumble off the sandwich into a pile on your plate. That's too sloppy. Now, the last step is to taste for salt levels, and I think we got it.
Babe. Let's try it.
It's real good.
Now,
Man, being married to like a cook or a chef or, you know, someone who loves cooking food, cheat code. Imagine just being able to, you know, get like nice meals made for you on the regular. And yeah, I'm not saying that you should just use them for food. You do nice things for them back. But yeah, that would be brilliant.
To make this into a sandwich, I'll drop a nonstick pan over medium heat. From there, I'll brush a liberal amount of melted butter on the inside of a squishy store-bought brioche bun. These little brioche joints are widely available and exceptionally soft. Way better for this sandwich, in my opinion, than those stale, dry, quote, hamburger buns. Not for my burger, bro. Next, I'll pop my buttered bun in the pan and then give it a light
nice
toast
crust
on both sides. This is going to bring some much needed crispiness to a sandwich that is normally just pure soft. And once I've caught a little crisp around the edges like this, I'll pull it out. Next, I'll drop 4 to 6 ounces of my meat mixture.
Yeah, look at how sturdy the meat is. You know, even though it's still sloppy, it's still got some structure to it. It's not just going to melt out of the sandwich.
Sure. And then I'll attempt to mitigate slop here by tidying the meat a little bit. My hope is that piling it tall and tight will keep most of it on the bun and off of my wrist/plate. And there we go. A not so sloppy Joe. Whoop, I'll just tuck that in a little bit. I'm in control here, Joe. Or should I say, Joseph.
Want this.
Wow, you've
I want this now.
really matured. You used to be a total mess of a sandwich, but now you're beefy, savory, a little bit spicy, a little bit sweet, and perfectly in balance. Texturally, this sandwich is so different from the Joes of your past. It's tender and juicy isn't the right word, but I'll say pleasantly moist. It's just a deluxe version of an otherwise very unglamorous sandwich, and it's so much more flavorful than I expected. Let's eat this thing!
Man, oh man, I could destroy like 5 of those right now. I've not eaten anything today. All I've had so far is this nice cup of tea, and I'm ready for some food. I mean, the thing is, I could make this. I know I could make this, but I don't know why, like, over the last few years, I've just gotten lazy with cooking. I used to love to cook, but now, like, because I've got a sister, Kathy, who loves cooking, she's definitely taken the reins of, like, cooking for the family and stuff whenever we get together. But, yeah, this sandwich, I mean, it doesn't look too hard to make, but it looks so delicious. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.